Hello student, in previous video we will revise the chapter number 3. In that we cover the topic difference between the physical properties of the metal and the non-metal, and then after we study about the some of the reaction of the metal with the water, different types of form of water like a steam, hot water, cold water, etc. In this video we will revise a reaction of the metal with the acid first. So, the common formula when the metal is react with the acid, then the metal plus dilute acid, then it gives a salt, and along with that the hydrogen gas is released. But here some exceptional cases there. Some of the metal who do not react with the dilute acid, and that metals are copper, silver and mercury, means the Cu, Ag and Hg. These metals do not react with the dilute acid. If asked in the exam that write down the metal which do not react with the dilute acid, then the answer is copper, uh, silver and the mercury, means the Cu, Ag and the Hg do not react with the dilute acid. Now the next one, let's see the example of the metals which react with the acid. If we are taking the Fe, means the iron, and we react it with the dilute HCl, means the hydrochloric acid, then we get the salt of the iron, means the FeCl2, and along with that the hydrogen gas is released. Let's do the balancing of the equation. Here you can see at the reactant side Fe is 1, product side Fe is also 1. At the reactant side hydrogen is 1, but in the product side here the hydrogen is 2. So for the making, or you can say the balancing of the equation, we have to write down 2 in front of the HCl. But while doing the balancing of the hydrogen, here you can see the Cl is also become a 2 at the reactant side, and the product side as well. The Cl is 2. So now this equation is balanced. Now let's see the another example. If we are taking a Mg, means the magnesium, this magnesium is react with the hydrochloric acid, means HCl, then we get the salt of the magnesium, that is MgCl2. Along with that the hydrogen gas is released. So here also we have to balance the equation. So here you can see the hydrogen is 2 at the product side, but here the only one. So for making a balancing of the hydrogen, we have to write down 2 over here, and the Cl, that is already 2 at the product side, and here we are writing the 2. So the all the balance equation is a now balanced one. Now the third example, that is of a Zn, means the zinc. If the zinc is react with the hydrochloric acid, then it is form the salt of the zinc, that is of ZnCl2, zinc chloride, and along with that the hydrogen gas is released. For balancing of this equation, we have to write down 2 in front of the HCl. So we get the balanced equation. The next example, that is of aluminium. The aluminium which is react with the hydrochloric acid, and then we get the aluminium chloride. Along with that the hydrogen gas is released. Let's see the balancing of it. Here you can see the aluminium is 1, here also 1, then the hydrogen is 1, but here 2, and chlorine here only 1, but here 3 is there. So first of all we make the balancing of the Cl. Here 3 is there. So if we are putting over here 2, then 3 2s are 6 Cl is there. So we have to write down 6 in front of the HCl. While the making of the 6 here, the hydrogen is become a 6, but here only 2 is there, so we have to write down 3 in front of the hydrogen, so 3 2s are 6. Now we see the aluminium. Here only one aluminium is there, but here 2. So for making it balance, we have to write down 2 in front of the aluminium. Now let's see the another reaction of the metals, that is a reaction of the metals with the solution of other metal salt. So the common formula of it, that metal A and the solution that is of salt, another metal salt that is of B. So we get the salt solution A and the metal B. Here the, as we already studied in the first chapter, that is of displacement reaction. So in this reaction, the displacement processes occur. So in that, the more reactive metal which displace the less reactive metal from their compound, or you can say in the solution. Let's take an example so you can easily understand. Here the Fe, which is react with the CuSO4, means the ion which is react with the copper sulfate solution. Here the ion is more reactive than the copper. So what happened? This ion is takes the place of the Cu. So it make this FeSO4, means the ferrous sulfate, and the Cu, that metal, is released. So now you can easily understand metal A means the Fe, which is a more reactive one. Salt B means the copper sulfate, and while the reaction between them, the salt solution A is produced, means the FeSO4 is made and the metal B is removed. So the Cu is removed. Now as we see in the displacement reaction, that the more reactive metal is displaced the less reactive metal. So how can we understand, how can we know that the which metal is a more reactive, which metal is a less reactive? So for that, one series is given according to the reaction of the metal, or you can say the reactivity of the metal. So that series, that is known as a reactivity series of the metal. The reactivity series is a list of metal which is arranged in the order of their decreasing activity. Means at the topmost you can get the more reactive. Whenever you go downwards, then the reactivity of the particular metal will be decreased. Let's take an example so you can easily understand. Here one reactivity series is given. So here you can see this K means the potassium, which is the most reactive. But while you are going to a downwards direction, then the reactivity of the metal will decrease. Means the K is the most reactive. If we compare between the K and the Na, means the potassium and the sodium, then the sodium is a less reactive than the potassium. If we are taking the example of the calcium and the sodium, then the calcium is less reactive than the sodium. Means if we are going a downwards direction, then the reactivity of the metal will decrease. So at the first you can see the most reactive, that is of a potassium, then after sodium, then after calcium, then after magnesium, then after aluminium, then after zinc, then after Fe, then the lead, then hydrogen, then copper, then the mercury, then the silver, and then the gold. So these three metals that you consider as a not reactive, or you can say the least reactive, because the reactivity of this metal is very less. That's why it considered as a least reactive, and this is the reason why the Ag and the Au, which is used for the making of the jewelry, means the silver and the gold, because it is a very less reactive, so it cannot easily react with the other gases and do not make any kind of layer on the surface. So this is the reason. And in the previous topic, as we discussed in the displacement process, then in that we are taking the Fe and the Cu. Here you can see the Fe is a more reactive than the Cu. That's why Fe is displaced the Cu. And then it is formed the FeSO4 and Cu is displaced. I hope you all are understand these things. Now the next point, that is of a reaction of the metal with non-metal. Now let's see if we are do the process between the metal and the non-metal, then what kind of things is happen. So if reactivity of the element is the tendency to attain a completely filled valence shell, means as we know there is a some pattern for the arrangement of the electron, and according to their energy level there are different cells is there in the atom, and in that in the first orbit the 2 electron are arranged, then after 8, then after 8, like that. So whatever the outermost orbit of particular element, that we consider as a valence shell. So this valence shell always have a tendency to attain a complete filled valence shell. Due to that, the atom of the metals who lost the electron from their valence shell to form a cation. Let's take an example by which you can easily understand. For example, we are taking a sodium. Sodium is a metal, and it's a electronic configuration that is of 281. So at the valence shell, you can see at the valence orbit, only one electron is there. For the completion of the valency, this metal have to lose their electron. If the metal lose the electron, it get the positive charge. Here sodium is lose one electron. That's why it is positively charged. And due to this positively charged, or you can say, they form the cation. Then the next one, if we are talking about the non-metal, then most of the non-metal that gain the electron in the valence shell to form anion. How? Let's take an example. The Cl means the chlorine. Chlorine is the non-metal, and its electronic configuration that is of 287. As the outer orbit, it contains the 7 electrons. So for the completion of the orbit, it requires 1 electron. So this non-metal means the chlorine gain 1 electron. So it is negatively charged. So that's why this non-metal is form a anion. As I give the example of the formation of the NaCl, the Na means the sodium, which is a metal, and its electronic configuration that is of 281. So it is lose this one electron and form a cation. So by that it's form a new configuration that is of 2,8 because it's lost the one electron. While in the case of the non-metal, then as we have a example of the Cl. So the Cl, its configuration that is of 287. So for the completion of the outer orbit, it's gain one electron. Here you can see. And then after it get the new configuration that is of 288. Due to that, it possesses the anion. Means the chloride possesses the anion while the sodium possesses the cation. Here you can see the how the ionic compound is formed by the metal and the non-metal reaction. Here as we see that the outer orbit, the sodium possesses the 1 electron, while in the chlorine and the outer orbit it possesses the 7 electrons. So for the completion of this, both the element for their outer orbit. What happened? This sodium is lose one electron. This lose electron which is gained by the chlorine. Here you can see. So due to that, Na possess the positive charge and the Cl possess the negative charge, because this Na, whatever one electron is loose, that electron that is gained by the Cl. So the Na possess the cation while the Cl possess the anion. Now let's see the ionic compounds. The compounds formed by the transfer of the electron from a metal to a non-metal are called the ionic compound, or you can say the electrovalent compound, as we see in the previous example that the NaCl, which is the example of the ionic bond. Because in this process what happened, the compound which is formed by the transfer of electron, here you can see the outer orbit one electron of the sodium which is transferred to the Cl. So due to that, whatever bond is generated, that we consider as an ionic bond, and that compound we consider as an ionic compound. So the compound formed by the transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal are called the ionic compounds, or you can say the electrovalent compound, because the whatever the valence electron is there, due to the transferring of that, any compound is generated, then we consider it as a electrovalent compound. Now let's see the properties of the ionic compound. The first one, that is of a physical nature. If you are talking about the ionic compound, then in which state generally it is found, so that things we consider as a physical nature. So the ionic compound, mostly they are solid in structure and it is a hard in nature, and it is a generally brittle one, means it is a brockable. Second one, that is of a melting and the boiling point. They have a high melting and the boiling point. As we see the physical nature that they are solid and hard. So due to that, it also possesses a high melting and the boiling point. The third properties of the ionic compound, that is of a solubility. So the ionic compound is generally soluble in water. As we see, the NaCl means the sodium chloride, also we known as a common salt. So the common salt is easily soluble in the water. So you can keep that example in your mind and write according to it. You can write down accordingly the properties of the ionic compound. So it is a generally soluble in water, and it is a insoluble in a solvent such as a kerosene, petrol, etc. So the mainly three properties that you have to write down for the ionic compound, that is of first one, that is of physical nature, second one that is of melting and the boiling point, third one that is of solubility, and the fourth one that is of conductivity of the heat and the electricity. So if you are talking about the ionic compounds conductivity, or you can say the conduction of the electricity, so the ionic compound conduct the electricity in the molten state and the solution from, but not in a solid state. Why it is able to conduct the electricity in a molten state? Because in the molten, or you can say the liquid state, or a solution, in the solution it possesses the ionic form, and these ion are able to pass the electricity. But while it is in solid state, it cannot produce the free ion. Due to that, it is not able to conduct the electricity. So the ionic compound conduct the electricity in the molten and the solution, but not in a solid state. Now the next point, that is of occurrence of the metal, means in the nature, in which kind of forms we found. So the first one, that is of minerals. What is the meaning of the minerals? Mineral means the element or the compound which occur naturally in the earth crust, then we consider as a minerals. Means whatever the element it is found as it is in natural, that element or compound we consider as a mineral. Now the next terminology, that is of ores. What is the meaning of ores? Ores means the minerals that contain a very high percentage of the particular metal. Let's take one example. Suppose the copper ore is there. So in that the 95, approximately 95 or 90% of the copper is there. Only 5 or 10% of the other impurities there. So we consider it as a ores. Means a mineral that contain a very high percentage of a particular metal, and the metal can be profitably extracted from it. Such a minerals are called ores. Now the next one, that is of a extraction of the metal from its ore. So for that mainly three steps are used. The first step is a enrichment of the ore. The second step, that is of a extraction of the metal, and the third step, that is of a refining of the metal. Now let's see the concentration of the ore. As we see in the reactivity series, in that the mainly three kinds of the metals are there. The first one, that is of a high metal who possess the high reactivity. The second one, that is of a moderate kind of activity, contain the metals, means the metal of a medium reactivity. And the third one, that is of a metals of a low reactivity. So according to their reactivity, there are some different method is there. So now let's see. If the high reactivity possess the metal possess the high reactivity, then we are using the electrolysis of the molten ore, and then after we get the pure metal. Means by the electrolysis process we can easily get the pure metal, but it is happen into the metal which is possess the high reactivity. Means the potassium is there, then the sodium is there, that kind of metal. The next one, that is of a metal of a medium reactivity. So it is the process which is depend on its ore. Means if the ore which is a carbonate, means it possesses the carbonate ore. So for that the calcination reaction is useful. Here you can see the zinc ore is there, but it is a possess the carbonate, zinc carbonate is there. So for the purification, the process which is used, that is of calcination. But if the ore is a sulfide form, means sulfide is there in the ore, like a mercury sulfide, means the HGS, that is also known as a Cinnabar, and the ZNS means the zinc sulfide. So that for that the roasting process is useful. Here two difference you can see in the calcination and the roasting process. The calcination, that process is done into the limited air, while the roasting process which is done in a excess air, means it require, in the calcination reaction it require a limited air, while in the roasting process it require excess air. After that we have to convert this ore into their oxide form. Means after this process we have to convert it into the oxide form of metal. Then after the further reaction, that is of a reduction of matter, and then finally the purification of the metal is occur. So by which we can purify the medium reactive metal. Now let's see the metal who possess the low reactivity. If it is possess the sulfide ore, then as we see in the moderate metal one, the roasting process is there. Same like in the least reactive metal, the roasting process is there. And then after this metal is directly refining and we get the pure form of the metal. So this is the process by which we can get the metal in a pure form from its ore. There are mainly how many steps? 3 steps. The first one that is of enrichment of the ore, second one that is of extraction of metal, and the third one that is of refining of metal. And the concentration of ore that is divided into 3 parts according to their reactivity, or you can say the according to the reactivity of the metal. If the high reactivity metal is there, then the by the process of electrolysis we are purify it. If the medium reactivity is there, then for that it is depend on their ore. If metal possess the carbonate ore, then the calcination process we further use, and if it is a possess the sulfide ore, then the roasting process we are use. After this process, we converted this metal into their oxide form, and then after reduction of the metal is done, and then finally we get the purified metal. While in the least reactive metal, first of all, it is it is in a sulfide ore, then the roasting process, and then after by the refining we get the pure form of the metal. Thank you.